Hey guys, today we're going to be creating the recipe page from Frontend Mentor. This is one of the simplest projects that they have on Frontend Mentor, but it can still be challenging for a lot of beginners, and there's definitely a lot we can learn. So today we're going to be creating this in HTML and CSS. We're going to be going step by step through the whole process. As you can see, this is what the finished product looks like. So this is responsive for all sizes. I'll show you mobile size. Okay, as you can see when we inspect it in Chrome DevTools, this is responsive for every single size, including small mobile sizes. Okay, so we're going to go through everything step by step, and I hope that you enjoy this video and learn something. Okay, alright, so first of all, starting out, we go to the Frontend Mentor website, and you go to Start Challenge and download assets. Okay, so you're going to download this starter pack, and then you're going to get a bunch of files that you're going to have to unzip. So this is what those files will look like now. Here you can see that I've got the index HTML, so this is what they give you, and they're going to give you all of this text here. So this default text. We're going to apply later the HTML components to this, and we're going to apply styling, but this is what they give you. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm using the live server extension here to take a look at that. Just going to press go live. All right, and then here you can see what this basic index HTML looks like that they give you. Okay, so obviously there's a stark difference between our final product and what they give you, but don't worry, slowly but surely we'll create this. So here you can see this attribution is this, so we can get rid of that if you want to. Okay, so we can get rid of that styling, and we can get rid of the attribution at the bottom for now, just for explanation's sakes. Okay, so what is the basic thing we have to do here? Well, before I start adding any sort of divs, headings, and elements to my body, I'm just going to link a style sheet, a style.css, so that we can actually later style this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use link, and then link is going to show up immediately with an M abbreviation, and it will do link.css. So you can just press enter, and that's going to create a style.css file. All right, so here in my folder, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name that style.css. Okay, I'm going to enter that, and to check that this is connected, we can just do HTML background color, and this will change the background color of the whole website if this is correctly connected. So let me just save this. Okay, so once we save our index.html and we save our style.css, you can see that that's changed to the color red. So that means everything is correctly connected here. Okay, so now that we have changed the color here to that, I will uncomment that by pressing Ctrl/, and that will uncomment it, so it will go back to being white. And we can move on to adding the components in our HTML. So how do we do this? How do we add the components? Okay, so some really simple trick to adding the components is we can, for example, select all of this text, and we can press this view, command palette, and emit wrap with abbreviation. And here we can just simply write div. And if we write div dot, this will add the class. So we can write div dot container, and this will basically place a div starting tag and a div closing tag around all of that selected text. So this is really good in these Frontend Mentor projects, because instead of having to manually write, for example, H1 and then rewrite all of this text, or copy this and try and place it within these tags, which is quite cumbersome, we can instead do it a little bit faster using the command palette. So I'm going to go ahead and go through every single one of these and create the tags that we need here. So for example, we can call this main title. You can call these classes anything that you want, anything that suits you, but I highly recommend doing something that will be, the better you get at coding, or the more you code and work with other people, they're going to have to read your code as well. So it's best to make names that make kind of sense and are intuitive. So for example, we can place main, title, description. Okay. So as much as possible, try and be intuitive with this. Okay, so as you can see, the browser will provide some default styling for headings, which is quite useful. So we can see there's the default styling here for the H1. And then when we take a look at the original project, we can see that there's an image here, and this image is provided to us. So let's place that into our HTML. So we're going to do image dot, and we can add a class to it. So we can just add the class of image for now, because this is the one image that's in this project. And then we're just going to do a slash assets, images, and the two images here we see is the favicon. So the favicon is this icon here at the top of the tab. So we want this omelet image. Okay, save. And as you can see, the whole image of the omelet shows up. All right, and then here in this alt, this is where we provide some text for accessibility. Okay, so if somebody's using a screen reader and they cannot view the image with their eyes, they can't see it, then they're going to have some text written out to them, some text read out to them. So in this alt, we can say, this is an image of an omelet. Okay, save. This is an image of an omelet. Okay, so that's quite intuitive what that is. All right, so now we're just going to go through the rest of these. So for example, for this preparation time here, you may not see this right here. Let me zoom in. It's actually not very visible, so you may not pick this up on the video, but there's a very faint pink box around this whole preparation time. So I'm just gonna again select all of this text, go view, command palette, emit wrap with abbreviation, div.preparation container. Okay, and I'm going to place all of that in there, and then I'm going to do view, command palette, emit wrap with abbreviation. We're going to do heading 2, and we're going to say preparation title. Okay, so some of these names sometimes can get a little bit long and arduous to write out, but the reason why we're doing this is because it's just for clarity. It's going to help us later. So yeah, the reason why, like in a second, guys, I'm going to do a time lapse of this and fill in the rest of this myself. But right now I'm just going to go through it for you manually, because I wanted to show you this, especially here. Here we've got a list item. So what we're going to do is we're going to go command palette, emit wrap with abbreviation, and we have two different types of lists. We've got the ordered list and we've got an unordered list. Okay, so for now, I'm going to do this as an unordered list. Potentially, I might change that later, but as you can see, this bullet point isn't necessarily ordered. Like, there's not a step-by-step, guide to how we're doing this. So we can do that as an unordered list. Okay, and then we can do preparation list, and then within this here, we're going to do these list items. So to do a list item, we do emit wrap with abbreviation li. Okay, so we're going to copy that for every single one, and we can provide a class here. We can manually write in classes as well, and we can do plist item so that we don't have to rewrite preparation. Okay guys, I'm going to fill in these HTMLs myself because, as I said, it's quite cumbersome, and the rest of these are quite intuitive here. All of them are either lists or headings or paragraphs. So we can fill this in, and whilst we're styling later, if we have to make some minor alterations to the HTML, we'll just go back to our file. By the way, as well, here I've got a kind of file to see the design, but if you guys are doing this on your own computer, we can see these design files here as well. So we can see the mobile version and the desktop version. I've just filled in my whole HTML here. Something that I wanted to mention was I changed this here to a UL, so a unordered list, because here there was these bullet points, so it's an unordered list, So UL is unordered and OL is ordered. So here, wherever there's bullet points, I've done a UL, so an unordered list, and then in the instructions we have an ordered list. So that will provide us with the default styling, so the bullet points, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the instructions in the ordered list. Okay, also I wanted to mention that these lines, the line breaks, are done with HR. So yeah, that's what's creating these line breaks here is the HR, sorry. Is the HR, that's what's creating these line breaks. Okay, so we have everything filled in here now. Let's go to our style.css and let's do that. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is something that you may not be aware of, especially if you're a beginner, is the fact that the browser is going to be providing us with some default styling that we want to get rid of. So the way that we do this is by using this asterisk, which is called universal selector, and we're going to be getting rid of some default styling. So you guys can copy paste this into your document just to get rid of some of this default styling. So what we're going to do is we're going to do border 0. We're going to do margin 0. We're going to do box sizing border box, border, margin, and padding of 0. Okay, this is, as you can see, there was a very minor shift there. So if you want to see that again, you can see that. So this is me commenting it out. This is me commenting it in. As you can see, there's a very minor shift there of everything. Now everything is flush with the kind of border of the website. And the reason why we do that is because this is going to allow us some more control over our own styling. Okay, so removing that is going to allow for us to style things by ourselves. So it's removed some of that default styling, which can be useful. Like, for example, it removed some of our list styling, which was useful before, and it removes the line break styling. But that's not a problem. I can show you guys how to add those in, and it's not going to be a problem. But sometimes that default styling can be useful. So, you know, you can practice without it and with it, but this is something, this kind of reset is something that is a common practice. Okay, and this reset here is quite short. Sometimes we've got even longer resets that we do. Okay, so for the index HTML, let's take a look at what we're doing here. Okay, so we've got the body, we've got the container. So, all right, how do we want to go about this? On my body, I'm just going to do a display of flex. Okay, so this is basically a way of kind of ordering our content and ordering the components on the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do place content center, and we're going to see what that does. Okay, so this has basically placed our content in the center of the page, as you can see. So that shift was not super well visible on this half screen there, but as you can see, all of our content has shifted to the center. And the reason why that's important is because we want this card to be on the center here of the page, as you can see. This is what it looks like. So we need all of this content on the center here. Okay, let me just reset my zoom to 100. Let's see what that looks like. So yeah, all of our content here is on the center. And then for our dot container, we're going to give it a max. Wait, make sure I'm spelling container correctly. We're going to give it a max width of 700 pixels. Okay, so there we go. This is going to just adjust the size of that card so that it is on the center, even on this screen size, okay? Because as you can see, this card isn't super big. Okay, so this is somewhere about 700 pixels. So that's why we're going to give it a max width. It's better to use max width instead of width, because using width can really damage the responsiveness, okay? So we want to use max width wherever possible instead of using width. Okay, so the biggest thing that's obviously shouting out at me here is this image is just incredibly oversized. So we can either use our dot image class, or since we have one image here, we can just write the image component from the HTML. And the way that we write it is without any sort of dot. Okay, so this is for denoting classes, and this is for denoting components. So like this body, like this image. And also, as you can see in this asterisk, this is what's selecting, that's the universal selector. Okay, so here we can provide this with a width of 100. Okay, and what this does is when we provide a width of 100% here to this image, it's adjusting itself to its container. Okay, so this means it's adjusting itself to its parent container. So what does that mean? When we look at the HTML, this div here is the parent, this container, because the image is within the container. Okay, so this is the parent and this is the child. And the child is going to adjust itself size-wise to the parent. So when we put 100% here, it's adjusting itself to this max width of 700 pixels. Okay, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. All right. Okay, so here if you can see this HTML, like if we see our final product, we see that there's a white card and there's clearly a different color here in the background of the actual, like let's say website, right? So we can do that by changing the background color. So background color, and then this is provided to us by Frontend Mentor. The colors are provided. So let's just take a look and see what this stone color is, or maybe it's this rose color. I'm not sure. We're going to check. So we're going to do copy, and then we can paste that in here. Okay, I don't see a significant change when changing that color, so let's use a different color here. So we can use stone. Hopefully this is the correct color. Okay, I think that's the correct color. For the container, we're going to change this background color just to white, because they provide us with white, but it's just a basic stock standard white. Okay, as you can see, guys, that's actually changed it to white. So what you can see is we can see the box looks very janky and the image is flush exactly with the kind of boundaries here, and we don't want that. We want a padding. So we're going to provide it with a padding of 1.5 rem. Okay, that looks a lot better with the padding. Also on my container, it's flush right with the top of the web page, and I don't want that. So I'm going to give it a margin top, and I'm going to give it a margin top of 5 rem. And the reason why, guys, I'm using rem here is this is just a habit that I've gone into. Instead of using pixels, rem tends to be more responsive and changes to different user settings, especially for font size. So you can use pixels, but to be honest, I've really gotten into using rem. So that's why I'm using rem everywhere. Now, looking at this padding, I feel like it could be 2 rem instead of 1.5. So I'm going to change that. Okay, here we can see this is looking a lot closer now to our final product. Okay, but we can see that this has some rounded corners. So how do we do the rounded corners? Okay, well, the rounded corners are going to be border radius. So this makes sense because it's the radius of the border here. And we're just going to set it right now to 2 rem. Okay, so you can also do this with percentages. So we can say 10%, but as you can see, the percentage is a lot more aggressive. Okay, so we can do 2 rem. If you're doing this in pixels, 1 rem is 16 pixels. So this would be 32 pixels. So we can see if we change that, that will be exactly the same. We can see what it's like with 16 pixels. So it's a lot less rounded. So you can decide how rounded you want it and how close you want to be to the original. So this is actually a little bit too rounded. So let's change that to 1.5. Okay, we changed that to 1.5. All right, the image, as you can see as well, is rounded. So let's take a look at how we can round the image. So let's go border radius, and we can change that as well to 2 rem. Let's see. Okay, that's a little bit too rounded. So let's do 1.5. All right, that looks good with 1.5. Also, if you guys are curious, you can do border radius like for only one corner. So you could do border bottom left radius, you could do border bottom right radius, border top. So this is doing border radius for every single corner of the image. Okay, so that's the typical one that we usually use. All right, So what can we see here as well that we want to do? Well, the gap between the image and the heading is more than the gap we have right now. So what we can do is we can do a margin bottom again using the margin, and we can do a 1 rem margin bottom, or we can do a 2 rem. Okay, 1.5 I think is correct, somewhere in between that. So we can see 1.5 margin bottom. All right, let's go into styling our text and our headings. So the thing that may have already jumped out to some of you guys is that the text here is different. So we have to change our font here to match the font of the original. So let's go to our style guide, and Frontend Mentor provides us with the styling, like what the Google fonts are. So we can just go and we can press get font, and that will select these two. So we've got these two selected, and then we're going to go get embed code, and we have the embed code in the link of your HTML. So I'm going to just do that. So I'm going to copy the code there, very easy, and I'm just going to do that. Okay. So we're just going to copy that into our head of our HTML. And then now that we've copied that into the head of our HTML, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and I'm going to see what I can group together. So I have a feeling that all of these headings, apart from the second preparation time heading, have the same font, and that is the font of young serif. And all of the lists and the descriptions, so the p tags, all of them have the outfit styling. So I can do H1, H3, H4, H5, because I went up to heading 5 here in my index.html, and we can do font family, and we can provide it with the font family of young serif that we just imported from Google Fonts. Okay, so we can see that's all young serif has been applied there, and then to the rest of the let's say components, we can apply the well, actually, instead of writing it out like this, we can just go to our container and we can just apply the font family here of outfit. So basically what happens is the most important class, like if we have classes for every single thing, the most important like CSS or the most important styling is the one that was placed last. So this will override this font family of the container. So if we save this, you can see that everything changed to outfit, but all of these headings that we specify with young serif stayed as that. Okay, so this is the most important styling right here, this last one, and it's overriding this font family of outfit. Okay, so this is providing a default for the whole thing, and this is overriding it. Okay, so that's a good way of, if you have a lot of things that you need to style, but just a few things that you want to change, then that's how you can do it very easily. All right, now we're going to have to go through and change colors here. So what I can do as well is, as you can see, most of this text has this slate color. So we can change it to this slate color. So I believe it's Stone 600 that we're changing it to. So we can go ahead and we can select that. We can just do a font size of 1 rem. We can do a font, sorry, not font, but color of that. So the color is what's changing the text, and the background color is what changes the background color. As you can see, that's changed absolutely everything to be 1 rem of size, so 16 pixels, and that color. By the way, 1 rem is the lowest you want to go with font size. Some of these Frontend Mentor projects want you to have smaller font sizes. then 1rem, but it's not very good to do that because 1rem is kind of the smallest font size for accessibility. And as you can see, this already creates a really small font size that can be difficult for some people to read. So, okay, what am I going to do as well here? Here I want to provide a margin bottom because everywhere we need some spacing, and we may as well apply it here. That's going to make it easier later for us to do. And we can also already apply a font size because most of these have a similar font size. We can also use some of these predetermined ones. So let's say larger. Okay, that's way too small. Let's just do it ourselves. 2rem. That's maybe a bit too big. 1.5. Okay, I have a feeling that H1 is the font size of 2rem, so I'm just going to do that as font size of 2rem and keep the rest as this smaller font size. Okay, so that's looking closer already. So, okay, let's provide this with a different color because it's not this stone, it's this darker stone. So we're going to go copy, okay, that looks correct. But as you can see, this one here in our styling looks slightly more bold than this one. So how do we change that? So that's going to be font weight. Okay, so we use font weight to change that. And so you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. So font weight, if we provide 500, it should change. Okay, maybe it's smaller than that, 300. Okay, I don't know why that font, because I've got font family. My bad. Font weight. Okay, so as you can see, when I do 300, that becomes a lot less bold and in your face, as opposed to, let's say, 900. As you can see, 900 is a lot more intense. So we're going to go somewhere in the middle and do 500, and I'm pretty sure 500 is pretty correct for that. It looks actually like our font size is a bit small here for the container, so I'm just going to increase that font size by a bit. Okay, so I'm going to increase it to 1.15, and I'm gonna do that. Okay, so here I want some spacing between everything, so I'm going to get my UL, my OL, my LI, and my P, and I'm going to give them a margin bottom of at least 0.5 rem, and we're going to take a look and see what that looks like. So, okay, I definitely want that margin bottom of 1.5 rem, and I want a larger margin for the bottom of these lists. So for example, the reason why I give a bigger margin for these is because the paragraph ends here, so this is 1 rem. So the list items, I don't want such a big difference between them, but I want a difference at the bottom here, as you can see. So that's good, maybe even bigger. All right, let's get into styling this preparation time heading. So we're going to go and look at what the preparation container was called. So it's called preparation container. So let's do dot preparation container, and let's go to our style guide. Let's grab this rose color that they're using here, and we're going to copy that, and we're going to do background color and paste it. Okay, as you can see, obviously that's way too dark. That's not the color that we're actually using here. So we can just press on this icon and we can change the opacity. So we're going to change it to something really faint, like 0.2. I'm going to actually change it even more to 0.1 because I still feel as though that's too dark, or we can change it to something like 0.05. Okay, here you can also change this last value, this fourth value, that's the value of opacity. So we can change it to 0.05. As you can see, it's very faint, so that's exactly what we want. We want a padding there applied so that it's not flush with the container, because it doesn't look good when it's flush with the container. So we're going to do 1.5 rem, and we'll also do a slight border radius on that. It's not something that's super noticeable, this container, but we can still properly style it just for the look of it. Okay, so yeah, let's go into doing this preparation time heading. So I know it's an H2. I can also use its class. It's better to get into the habit of using classes, but it can be faster to just write H2. So this is preparation title. So let me copy that class name so I don't accidentally misspell it. Let's copy it. Let's paste it, and let's change the color of that. So I'm going to change it to the rose color that we were just using a second ago. So let's change that, place that there. Okay, as you can see, that's changed that. It's exactly what we want. And we want a bit of a bigger margin on this, so I'm going to give it a margin bottom of 1 rem. Okay, looks better. And then we want to change this list so that the list is inside more, okay? Because you can see this list is kind of outside. So we're going to change it so that it's more inside. Okay, guys? I'm just going to grab a sip of water and then I'm going to be back with you to change that. Bearing with me. Okay, let's continue here. So we're going to do the preparation time. We're going to see how we're going to do this. So we're going to write preparation list. And to do this bullet point, to change this bullet point, we're simply going to add padding left, and we're going to add a padding left of 2 rem. Because as you can see before, those bullet points were way too close to the side of the container. We didn't want that. And now that I'm looking as well, I think the padding of this container is a little bit too big, so we're going to just make that smaller. Okay, so we're going to change that, and yeah, so that's looking pretty good. The only thing here is obviously these words, total, preparation, and cooking, are bold. So let's change that. Let's make the words total, preparation, and cooking bold. So what we need to do is we need to go back to our HTML, view command palette, and wrap with abbreviation. We're gonna wrap these words with the abbreviation of strong. Now, what strong does is strong is just bold. So if you want to make something bold and you don't want to do it, you can also do it in CSS. But obviously, if we're doing in an individual word, it's a lot harder. We have to have some sort of container wrapped around it. Then the strong tag is really useful. So we can use strong to change the individual word. Okay, let's apply a margin bottom to our preparation time container of 0.5 rem. Let's apply a bigger one. That was way too small. 1.5. Okay, so yeah, what else do we have to change here? We have to change these little discs to be a different color. Let's see if we can do that. It may be difficult though. Let's see, .plist item, .plist item. Can we change that to be a color of this color? So that changes the text as well. So, okay, I think I know what we have to do here. I think we have to do li and then marker. Okay, so yeah, this is what we're doing here. We're doing li marker, and we only want this for the preparation list. So we're going to place the preparation list class in front of it, because as you can see, it's applied this rose color to absolutely every single list marker, but we only want that for the preparation list. So if we put preparation list in front of that, it will change it for only the preparation list. Okay, all right, let's move on, guys, to the rest of this. So we've got the ingredients, the instructions, the nutrition. So let's take a look at what the ingredients, instructions, and nutrition are doing. So those are that's the H3, H4, and H5. They all have the same color. So we can change that real quickly by selecting H3, H4 and H5, going to our style guide and selecting this brown color. So let's select that, let's do color, place that there. And as you can see, everything has changed. We can change the font weight because you can see it's too thick, it's too bold. So let's change that to 500. That looks a lot better. And let's take a look at what is going on with these lists. So I can already see in the ingredient list, we have the same thing here that we want, like in the preparation list, that we have to do the padding left. So let's take a look at our index HTML. It's called ingredient list. So what we can do here is, since we already have a class that has this padding left, we can just place a comma. We can place ingredient list here. And as you can see, that just changed it straight away. So all I've done there is I've just added that here because it has the same styling. So both of them need padding left. So we can place them together, kind of like what we're doing with the H3, the H4 and the H5. We can place them together, and anywhere where we can optimize like that, we can write less code, so it's better for us. All right, and then all I'm gonna do is for the instructions, I really want to add, like, I still think I will end up writing a separate class here for the ingredient list because I want to add a bit more spacing. So I'm going to add a margin bottom of 0.5 rem. Okay, I want a bigger margin than that, so I'm going to do 1 rem. Okay, I don't know why that is not doing it. Oh, because we've accidentally done that. Okay. We may even, okay, now it's fixed. So we didn't even have to add that. It just wasn't applying it because we had a slight error in our HTML. Okay, we got to double check sometimes that the HTML is correct. All right, so the instructions list, I'm gonna have to do the same thing. I want the padding left. So I'm gonna do dot instru list, I believe is what I called it. Yep. So instru list. I also want to change the color of the instruction list marker. So we're going to change instru list li dot marker, and we're going to change that to this brown color again. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay. And then also we're going to apply the strong tags to this as well, like we did before. So we're going to go view, command palette, emit wrap with abbreviation strong. View, command palette, emit wrap with abbreviation strong. Command palette, emit wrap with abbreviation strong. Although, guys, this is still quite cumbersome, as you can see, it's still a lot faster than having to manually write the strong tags and then copy the text over. It's still better to use emit and wrap this with abbreviation, especially when you've got a really big body of text. So this is a really useful tool still to use, and doing the strong tags is definitely great. Okay, strong tags, we've provided that here, but this is the wrong color, you may notice. So we can also place here dot instru list strong, and that will specifically select the strong tags within the instruction list. We can copy that, we can paste it, and that will be correct. Okay, and now we're finally on to the nutrition section. So we're getting close to finishing the whole styling of this actually, it looks like I've styled this wrong. Supposedly this is supposed to be black, so we'll change it to black. That black is way too intense, so we'll change the opacity to that. Supposedly this is supposed to be black. Okay, oops, my bad. We're going to change it to black. All right, now we're moving on to the nutrition section of this. So let's take a look. Oh yeah, we've also forgotten about the line breaks. let me quickly style the line breaks. So the line breaks are denoted by HR. I've already placed that into my HTML. So as you can see, there's an HR here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do border, top 1 pixel, solid black. Okay, as you can see, that's given us the lines, but they're way too harsh. We don't want that. So we'll change the opacity again, something to like 0.5 or something. Yeah, something like that. We'll change it to 0.5 and we'll give a margin bottom so that there's a better spacing here of 1 rem. Okay, that looks a lot better. And now we've moved on to the nutrition list. So for the nutrition list, actually, we don't need to do the padding left. All we have to do is get rid of these bullet points. The nutrition list doesn't have, oh, let's take a look. Doesn't have any bullet points here. So we want to get rid of that. So I'm going to do .nutri, or actually we're going to do .nutri list li, because we want to select the list items inside of that. And we're going to do style type. The default is disk, so that's what it is right now, but we're going to do style type none. Okay, that's gotten rid of it straight away. And here already I've got the strong tags within these list items. As you can see, every single li is selecting both of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to do display flex. Now, why am I doing display flex? Well, this is because I'm going to want to add a gap here of 2 rem. I'm pretty sure it's gap. Yeah, so we're going to add a gap here. So we can achieve this kind of spacing. But what we're going to do is we can see that the gap is not doing it correctly because all of these are a different kind of length. So we want to do justify content and we want to do space between. Okay, now that's making it go to the end. So I'm going to see if I can change the width here so that this doesn't make it go straight to the end like that. So maybe we can do a width of 40%. Yeah, so that's fixed it so that it's not going right to the end. And then again, we want to change the color of this Nutri list. So these calories are in this brown color instead of this slate color. So we're going to check Nutri list strong and we're going to add that brown color here. That we got Ctrl C, Ctrl V, save. Okay, great. That looks great. And at the end of my container, I want to add a margin bottom. So I'm going to add a margin bottom of 5 rem as well, so that there's just a bit of space at the end of the container. And I think that's looking great, guys. I think that looks really close to the design for the desktop. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what this is looking like for mobile and see if it's responsive. But if we've done it correctly, it should be pretty responsive. So what I'm going to do, right click, press inspect, and this is going to open it for mobile version. So as you can see, this opens for mobile versions. And as you can see, that's looking pretty responsive. So it's allowing us to, it's changing to this smaller size. But if we look at the mobile design, it's slightly different, okay? We don't have the, we don't have this background color. So what we can do is we can change that. So we can do, to change something for a different size, we're going to use at media, okay? So this is going to change the design for a different size. I'm going to do at media, max width, and we can see what the maximum width is where we want to change that. So let's say max width 400 pixels. So anything below 400 pixels will have these styles applied to it. So you've got to make sure that our window is showing below 400 pixels, okay? So it's going to have this style applied to it. So we're going to see the HTML, the background color is this. So I want to change that. I'm going to change that to a background color of white. So I'm going to do background color, and here I'm going to do white. Okay, see, that changes that background color to white. So that looks closer already to the mobile design. Also, I see that these are kind of encroaching upon each other, this nutrition list. So I want to fix that as well so that it doesn't look poor. So we're going to copy that here, and maybe we're going to increase the width. Yes, I'm going to increase the width to 60, and that's already making that look better here. So that display flex, there's some space for it to be space between. That's already looking better. And then finally, I want to fix this image. So I'm going to do image, and I'm going to copy that into here, and I'm going to change this styling. So basically as well, guys, so you understand, the media query, it's going to use the default styling of the whole file, unless we change something here inside of these curly brackets, okay? So it's using the default styling of the whole page, unless we change what's in the default curly brackets. So let's comment this out and see what happens. Okay, let's see what happens when we possibly have this as a padding 0. I'm not sure what we can do here actually. Just a second. This container padding. Okay, I know what we're going to do. We're going to grab this container. We're going to change the padding for this container. So we're going to grab that. We're going to get rid of this padding. I don't know why that's not working. Should be working for this. This padding should not be seen here right now. Actually, oh yeah, I think we have to write padding 0. Okay, we're going to write padding 0 here. So that's going to get rid of that. We're going to write width, maybe auto. What happens when we write width auto? Okay, actually, we may not have to do that. Wait, width, let's say 320 pixels. Oh, okay, so we're not going to get rid of the padding on the container. Instead, we're going to just change the width here so that it appears to not have padding. So we're going to change that width to 340, and we're going to do a border radius of 0. Okay, so it's exactly what I said to you guys earlier, which is the problem, where because the default styles are being inherited like from this CSS file, we actually have to manually write 0 here for this to be working. So unless we write 0, then it's still getting this padding and all of these things. So here, let's see what the padding is. Let's apply padding of 2 rem. Okay, and I don't know why the 2 rem padding is not being applied, but we can just write this H3, H4, H5, P, UL, OL, and we can give it a padding of 2 rem, a padding of left 2 rem. Okay, that looks a lot better, and a padding of right of 2 rem. Okay, that looks very good, and then we're going to do a padding top of 0 so that that image is basically flush at the top there, and we can see if that image, we can see if there's still any sort of, by inspecting it, we can see if there's still any sort of, this div container has this. We're going to get rid of the padding top so that this image is flush right with the top. So we're going to get rid of padding top. Okay, so as you can see, I inspected there, and using these check marks, I can get rid of these styles. So I check marked that style so that I could figure out to get rid of the padding top. And that looks really good now, guys. So there you have it. This is the final version of the recipe page. I will be linking these files to GitHub, so you'll be able to look at my code and copy it, or take a look at what I've done specifically if there's any moment in this video that you're unsure of. And I hope in general that this helped you guys. If you learned something new and this helped you, I would really appreciate if you subscribed to the channel, because it's my first video, so I'm trying to grow this, and I'll definitely be making more videos about Frontend Mentor. Please let me know as well, guys, what you enjoy, what kind of video suggestions you have, and what kind of improvements I could make if there's any that you didn't enjoy here. If there's something wrong with the visibility or the audio, please let me know. All right, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.